What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Landry Hat channel. If you guys haven't already, please make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a single Cowboys video. And today we're going to be looking at the reported Dallas Cowboys 30 visits so far, because since the last time that we talked about this, they have added a couple of names here and there, but there's one name in particular that I want to talk about that isn't on this list, and I think it gives us a pretty good idea of what the Cowboys are planning to do in this draft, what they don't want to do in this draft. So let's go ahead and get into the video. The first name on this list, Arvell Reese. We've talked about him, me and Foots have, on the Landry Hat podcast. I've talked about him here on this channel, on my own channel. Arvell Reese is a linebacker defensive end. He can do some off-ball stuff, but he can also rush the passer. I think that's more of a developmental type of trait. He is a really good off-ball linebacker. Some people might even like the second guy on this list that Dallas has visited with, Sonny Styles, better than Reese off-ball. I have Reese as a higher graded prospect because of what I think he can do as a pass rusher. He kind of has that versatility. If it turns out and he's a really good pass rusher, he's not going to be playing off-ball linebacker. Teams are looking for guys that can get after the quarterback. Reese is going to get an opportunity to do that wherever he goes. The Cowboys could really use a guy with that much strength, power, the tenacity that he plays with. He's big, fast, strong, athletic. He's a hard-nosed tackler. He punishes the ball carrier when he gets there. He just has this different grown man strength when he's shedding blocks and making tackles. I like his speed, burst, and power when he's rushing the quarterback. The bend obviously isn't there, but that's something that is developmental, that you think that if you bring him into the building, the Cowboys think if they were to draft Arvell Reese, that they can work with those traits, and I 100% agree. Sonny Styles, the 6th on the consensus ranking board, 6th on the consensus board, and my 4th ranked prospect in this draft. I love Sonny Styles. Now, I guess this is a good time to mention that it's very interesting that Dallas is talking to guys that we don't feel like are going to be in their range. You look at the consensus rank, 2nd, 6th, and Mansour Delane is at 10th, but I don't think he's going to make it there either. That is interesting because those guys at the top are still coming in for 30 visits. You only get 30 of these guys in the building. So why would you be talking to players that potentially aren't going to be there or are almost 100% guaranteed to not be there? Is there a chance that Dallas is looking to trade up, or if they have the opportunity to trade up? I know it's been a big conversation around the Cowboys media space, but also Todd McShay said something about it. A couple of other people have said things about it. It's obviously a possibility, but Reese, Styles, and Delane are my top 3 names on must-have list. Now, it doesn't say that they've had David Bailey in the building. He might be a Dallas Day guy. He hasn't been on this list yet either. These are just players that they wouldn't get to talk to otherwise, so they only get 30 of these. Caleb Downs, we've talked about him a ton on the channel as well. I mean, how can you blame me when he's my number 1 player on my board? And he has the archetype of being a coverage safety or a box safety. He could play in the nickel. There are some people out there that say that they're not 100% convinced that he can be a nickel defender. Even then, if he is a safety that plays on the roof, or if you want to bring him down into the box and be a box safety, he can do that. His skill set has a huge range. The closing speed is extraordinary. He's an excellent run defender and excellent tackler. He has a physical play style, takes really good angles. I think he has the athleticism to play in man-to-man coverage. Downs is certainly a guy that could get to the Cowboys at 12, and I want to mention what Peter Schrager said, not only in his mock draft, but his reasoning for Downs going to Dallas, and that is Christian Parker. Peter Schrager said he's a good friend of Christian Parker. He's known him for a long time, and he just knows that he would love a guy like Downs on his defense. He's going to step in day one and be the smartest player on the field, be the leader of a defense. He would instantly be the best player on that side of the ball, and that's a reason that Christian Parker would love to have him on the team, and why, if Downs makes it to 12, there's a 99% possibility that he will be the pick. I won't harp about this too long because I've said it a million times. I'm going to say it just one more time, and That's probably a lie. I'm going to say it again before we get to the draft. If the Cowboys draft Caleb Downs, I will jump up and down in excitement. I'm not sure if that was, I will jump up and downs. Okay, there's the pun. All right, the 10th player, Mansour Delane, the LSU cornerback, my 6th ranked player on my board. He's the 10th in the consensus ranking. There's a bunch of teams ahead of you, like the Bengals and the Chiefs and the Saints, that also need defenders, that lost cornerbacks this offseason. I don't see him making it there. In that case, could the Cowboys trade up if they want to get a corner? The conversation you can also have is, do the Cowboys think they need a corner? Deron Bland got paid. Yes, Trayvon Diggs moved on, but they drafted Savone Revel with a top 100 pick. We know that they think they need a nickel corner. Mansour Delane would probably be better on the outside. I think he could do nickel things. He's just not the physical mold of what Christian Parker is probably looking for at the position, a little bit bigger of a guy. But Delane was one of the best cornerbacks in the country last year. How can you not talk to him? And there's people inside of the building that helped get Delane to Virginia Tech, so there's some familiarity there. 24th, Omar Cooper Jr. Now, I will admit to you guys, I've been really behind in watching these wide receivers in this class. I watched the top 3 guys, the names that I heard the most about, with Jordan Tyson, Mekhi Lemon, and Carnell Tate. I'm just now getting to my 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th wide receivers in this class. Omar Cooper Jr. might be my favorite wide receiver so far. Yes, I've watched Lemon and Tate and Tyson. Omar Cooper is such a good player. I'm not questioning at all why they wanted to talk to him. Just the run after catch ability, the explosiveness that he has. I loved Omar Cooper Jr.'s film. Emmanuel McNeil Warren, a guy that can play in the nickel, also play on the roof, also be a box safety. Loved his film as well. He's in my top 20 players for this class. And then Keontae Scott. We just talked about what Christian Parker's looking for from a nickel corner, and I think Keontae Scott fits that to a T. He played a lot in the slot at Miami, but what this team and this defense and this coaching staff and the scouting department are going to really like about Keontae Scott is the physicality. He is such a physical player. He'll come down, tackle. He can play in the box. He can be a plus run defender as a corner, but he can also cover in space. A couple notes: his instincts really show up in the run game. You just go back and watch that pick 6 that he had against Ohio State, where he's reading the wide receiver screen. He's able to jump that route, take it to the house. He played all over the defensive backfield. You talk about versatility. This guy has it. Outside cornerback in the nickel, had some snaps at safety as well. 489 snaps in the slot. Really good closing speed and recovery speed. He's able to be decisive and diagnose things happening in front of him. He's not someone that wide receivers are going to easily block on wide receiver screens. If he gets beat, he has the speed to make up ground and make a play on the ball, and I really loved what he was able to do when Miami was sending him on those nickel blitzes. He closes the distance very fast, times it really well, doesn't tip off what's going to happen to the offense. Keontae Scott is kind of in that range where no man's land. We can call it no man's land because if Dallas makes their pick at 12 and 20, doesn't make any moves, and they sit around and wait until 92, I don't see a world where Keontae Scott makes it to them. I just told you guys I haven't watched a ton of wide receivers. Also haven't watched a ton of offensive tackles or offensive linemen. Right now, Keontae Scott is in that 40 to 50-ish range for me on my big board. I plan to watch more offensive players as we get closer to the draft, but I want to talk about Josiah Troder. If you're looking to get in on the action, Underdog is one of the most fun ways to do it. With so many sports going on, playing on Underdog is really straightforward and a ton of fun. All you have to do is choose whether a player will go for higher or lower on their stats, like points, rebounds, assists, steals, all of it. Let's say you're making picks for this upcoming NFL season. I know we're not there just yet, but I love getting in on the NFL action early. In my picks, I'm going with this offseason are Derrick Henry lower than 1,224.5 rushing yards. I mean, it's inevitable that he eventually has a down season. It's got to happen sooner rather than later. That's why I'm taking lower on his season rush yards. And we're going to stick with the running backs for my next one. Ashton Jeanty higher than 1,024.5 season rushing yards. The Raiders weren't good last year. Their offensive line wasn't good, but they've put a ton of money into that team this offseason, and I think Jeanty is going to have a much better year than he did his rookie season. I'm going to play $10 on that, and I could win up to $30 $5. So that's my picks for this upcoming NFL season. But don't forget, guys, you can play NHL, tennis, soccer, MLB, and the PGA. I also really like the UFC. So if you want to get in on the action, download the Underdog app today and use promo code Landry to score $50 in bonus entries when you play your first $5. That's promo code Landry. Underdog, make picks, win money.
Must be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms _DFS_.html for details. Offer not valid in Maryland, Michigan, New Jersey, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org. In New York, call the 24/7 HOPE line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369.
Some people really like Anthony Hill Jr. Others might like Jake Golday. Different names like that. Josiah Troder, for me, is that guy. Just 20 years old. He still has a ton of room to grow as a player. He plays with really good physicality and tenacity, getting downhill. Saw a number of times he's just knocking guys over, offensive linemen, tight ends, wide receivers, all of them. He can convert speed to power very, very well. When you're watching the film, there's certain guys that look like they're playing in slow motion, but they're still playing fast. It's the natural instincts to knife through the line, find his way to the ball, just the ability to sift through the bodies, make blockers miss, and go make a play, jumping over guys, slipping under blocks. It's just crazy how fast he could shoot through the gap. I'm so excited that they decided to talk to Josiah Troder. I'm a little upset that he's going to fall in that no man's land range, but this is the Cowboys doing their due diligence. Let's say that he falls for whatever reason, or they move back from 12 and pick up a second round pick, or they move back from 20 and pick up a second round pick somehow. I really think that all cards are on the table for this team. They could really go a number of different ways. And it feels like in this 30 visit list that they're doing all of that. They're talking to the guys at the top half of the draft. They might slide and the Cowboys move up to 8 or 9 and draft one of those guys. They're talking to Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, Omar Cooper Jr., again, a guy that you might not want to take at 20 because of where your wide receiver room is right now, but would certainly be in play if they moved back, picked up extra picks, and felt like they could do other things on defense, use assets other places on defense. And then 78, Kamari Ramsey, 83, and these are the consensus rankings. Kamari Ramsey, Romello Height at 83, Malik Muhammad at 94, and this is the range where the Cowboys' third round pick is. I'm probably going to say this about the remaining players on this list. The guys at the very end in the 400s and the 262 and Charles Demings. I haven't watched him yet either. I like these players. I don't necessarily love these players. Kamari Ramsey, good athleticism. He has versatility to play a number of different positions, maybe a guy that could be a nickel player for you. 6 foot, 202 pounds, ran a 4.47 40-yard dash, good short area quickness, tackles really well, runs the alley. I like Kamari Ramsey. I would feel good about that pick at 92. Obviously, there are some warts to his game, just like Romello Height, who has kind of fallen down in the past couple of weeks. That's just typically how it goes as the media catches up with the NFL and what scouts are thinking and all of this. Romello Height didn't get nearly as much love because David Bailey was also at Texas Tech. He had such a productive pass rusher across from him. I currently have Height as a early round 3 prospect. He was a 5-year player in college, played for a number of different schools, Auburn, USC, Georgia Tech, and then Texas Tech. He had solid 2023 and 2024 seasons, 6 sacks respectively, but his breakout campaign came in 2025 at Texas Tech. He's a little bit smaller, which allows him to use his speed and agility to win. His closing speed and pursuit speed really put pressure on the quarterback to move off their spot or make a throw. I like his awareness and contained discipline, his gap integrity when he's rushing. He's not really running himself off the spot. Now, there were times watching his film where I had questions about what his actual plan was. What was he doing with the hand usage, the power, and just overall pass rush plan? Where it looked like he was just sending it like, all right, let's just throw whatever at the wall. He was ending up on the ground. I didn't love that. In this third round pick range is kind of where I see him at. Now, this would give Dallas a good pass rusher with juice. I kind of see it in the same way that I do with Donovan Ezraku. Very similar players, maybe a little bit undersized. Ezraku was a better pure pass rusher coming out of college. If they do want to take a guy in that third round and get an edge player, and Romello Height is sitting there, I would have no problems with that. But there's a name that I want to talk about that isn't on this list, and that is Jermod McCoy, the cornerback from Tennessee. We heard it early on in the process, and then it kind of got walked back a little bit, and now we're hearing it again. Is it going to get walked back before the draft? We heard the Cowboys weren't taking players with injuries. Does that mean that they think Jermod McCoy is injured? I have no idea. He did some stuff at his pro day. He is going to be a year and like 9 months removed from that injury by the time he takes his first NFL snap. Is that technically an injured guy? I guess that's for them to decide. It seems like as of right now, there's one of two things happening, and I can't figure out which one. One, they're staying true to it. We're not taking injured players. We think that McCoy is injured. He hasn't played football, hasn't been on a football field for nearly 2 years by the time that he gets into the NFL. He had the ACL. Why is it taking him so long to get back? Why didn't he run at the combine? Yes, he did things at his pro day, all this. Or number two, they are trying to distance themselves from McCoy so bad because they don't want anybody inside of that top 10 or someone outside of the top 10 thinking that they love McCoy, which they do. They're playing 8D chess right now with us because they don't want anyone to know how much they like McCoy. We're not taking injured players. Yeah, despite what we saw at the pro day, we don't really care. We're not taking injured players, blah, 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 blah. One of those two things is happening right now. Which one? I have no idea. It seems kind of weird that all these reports are coming out about the Cowboys are out on McCoy. We don't care what happened at his pro day. That's not happening, blah, blah, blah. Why would you tip that off? They're not doing that with third-round players, second-round players, fifth-round players. Like, yeah, we're completely out on that guy. We haven't heard them say anything about any other player but Jermod McCoy. It goes back to the conversation of, do they think they need a corner? I mean, you have Revel, you have Bland. Maybe they're looking for a guy that can play in the nickel. I liked McCoy. I have him as a early second-round pick or a late one, not a true first rounder. Even when watching the film, when he was healthy, you add in the injury. I'm not 100% convinced that he really likes to play against the run, that he likes to tackle and be physical. I know that's not the end-all be-all, but when you're watching other guys in this class that do, like Chris Johnson from San Diego State or Mansour Delane, who will stick his nose in there and go get the football and help you in the run game. I didn't love that from McCoy. I know there are people out there that have him as a top 10 prospect, a top 5 prospect. For me personally, I don't have that. He is a top 20 player for me, but I still wouldn't be mad if the Cowboys are truly out on him and he's not going to be an option at 12th overall. So that's going to conclude this episode of the Landry Hat. These are the reported Dallas Cowboys 30 visits so far. We talked about why they're talking to guys that are out of their draft reach, talking to guys at the end of the first round, guys that are in no man's land right there in the middle of the second round, and then of course prospects that are going to be in that 92 range where they have the pick from the Osa Odigizua trade. I want to hear what you guys think down below in the comments about the McCoy thing. Is it weird to you guys that they're just throwing that out there? Like, yeah, we're completely out. Why would we want Jermod McCoy? Yeah, well, I mean, there's no chance, he's hurt, blah, blah, blah. Maybe I'm thinking way too hard about this. Maybe it's not that complicated. I just find it extremely odd that that's the one guy. And I want to say this really quick, too. I'm all over the place, right? There have been numerous drafts where the Cowboys take guys that they didn't have 30 visits with. There's been drafts where they didn't take a single player from the guys that they had 30 visits with. This list is not the end-all, be-all. It kind of gives us an idea. Linebacker, safety, corner, linebacker, safety, edge. They know where their needs are. They talked to 3 corners so far. They've talked to 3 linebackers so far. 3 safeties so far. They know they need defense, but that still doesn't mean to me that they are going to draft someone from this list. So I want to hear what you guys think down below. Leave your thoughts, your comments. I enjoy hearing what you guys have to say. And until next time, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the Landry Hat. You can find me at Double Move on YouTube. Thank you guys so much for watching. I love you all, and I'll see you very, very soon.